Dear person listening to this talk here, it's not a talk from the EAP as the recording there went wrong. So it's a talk which I have talked in here in January 2022. So maybe my memory is not as good for this talk, but I'll do my very best. I'm Morten Kargo, and I have together with the authors here given this talk long-term impacts of selection for resilience combining genetics and systematic modeling. The outline of this talk is I'll give a little bit on the background, talk about some traits and tools and combined use of tools and the strength of this, and then give a few results. And then we'll also talk a little bit on how to define and cope with resilience in cattle production. This is a very nice collaboration. In VP5 in Gentor, we have at Aarhus University worked a lot with Adam. At INRA in VP6, they have worked a lot with Aquel, and then we have had some very, very good collaborators in Viking Genetics, and altogether these three collaborators has contributed a lot to this talk here. Challenges for the future dairy production. There's a lot of them. We have a problem with the global climate changes, differentiated future production systems, and animal welfare issues, genetic by environment interactions. Strong new genetic tools have become available, and there is a diversification of the consumer preferences. And then we do also have less cooperative thinking in those working with cattle breeding nowadays. And then we have to consider genetic diversity as well. The overall idea is to have the production environments, the production systems, which you see to the left here, to interact in the best way with the genetic material we use and can change via selection. So it's up to having the optimal breeding goal, the right breeding schemes, or the right breeds to be changed using these breeding schemes, and then also have how to use the new technologies. Could be sex semen, could be use of beef semen when we use a lot of sex semen. The overall idea is understanding the importance of having the right animals for the specific production system with an expected increased diversity within production systems. And for that, we require or need resilient animals. But then how to define resilience in cattle production? One definition is the ability of a cow to cope with environmental disturbances such as feed shortage or heat waves. Here I give some general resilience definitions. Here at the very top you see that the resilience is about this ball there. It has no possibilities to the left to go away from this slope there, whereas it on the right side there's a big risk that it drops down. Then going to the next level of resilience, their resilience is about fast recovery. There we see that it could be an animal, it could be a person. It's at a certain level, then we see a drop, but very, very soon to the left it comes up to the normal level again. Whereas in the right side, you see it takes a lot more time to recover, meaning that this person, animal, or whatever it is less resilient. The next place you see that there's a low to the left temporal autocorrelation and variance, while on the other hand you see a big variation and high temporal autocorrelation. And again, to the left, the E figure is the one having the high resilience. And then coming to the last definition, it says that the interactive dynamics of subsystems are predicted to become more correlated in a network with low systematic resilience as to the right, whereas to the left, there's low cross correlation between subsystems, and there we define this as being high resilient. Then in dairy cattle breeding or production, there's a lot of important traits. In our simulations, we have reduced the number of traits, and we hopefully have taken the most important ones. We have taken milk production, beef production, dry matter, or intake, or feed efficiency, fertility, and health. And we have some resilience traits indicators, its body condition score, its log transform variance lactation curve, its true resilience assumed registration of where we assume that it's possible to registrate the true phenotype, which is per se not is, but that's our assumption here. If we talk a little bit more on the trait, then feed efficiency, we can have this at lactation level or at live level, and this is not the same trait and presumably very different within different production environments as well. Here you see two different pictures. To the left we have an indoor system with some Jersey cows, and to the right an outdoor grass-based production systems. And sure, the feed efficiency trait is not the same in these two production systems. And as there are trait challenges, the traits may or will be weighed different in different breeding goals depending on the environment. Traits are not the same in different environments. They can be differently correlated, and the true resilience are unknown. But we here in our calculations here assume that they can be described via parameters related to resource acquisition, could be kilogram of dry matter per day, and parameters related to resource allocation, as they are defined in the AQUEL program. So we have two tools which would like to have to work together. But first, we'll look at AQUEL, which is worked with in work packet 6 in the GenDor project. Here, what is AQUEL? It's a dynamic model based on energy processes, and traits are simulated throughout life from the calf is born here until the culling or death of the adult cow. And we have two parameters related to resource acquisition and two parameters related to resource allocation. And resource acquisition, it could drive, and then for this system, the animal system, there is some dry matter offered with a certain energy content, maybe measured in megajoule per kilogram dry matter or something like that. But this is the environment. And then based on these four parameters and the environment, we'll see a milk production. Here you see milk production over 5 lactations, and we'll see body mass component. We see at the beginning, before it starts milking, the animal is putting on body mass, and then as it calves, then it goes down, the body mass go up again, and so on. And how does it work? Here at this slide, there's focus on acquisition, and the acquisition is about how much energy that enters the system, and this is a function of the genetics of the animals and the states of life for that animal, and it's also a function of the nutritional environment, how much energy or food is the animal offered, and based on this we'll again have how much can the animal eat at different times of life, as you see to the right. How does it work? Here I put some focus on allocation. This is also defined by two parameters, and again it's a function of the genetics and the states of lactation. And then and this is about how is this energy, which is already taken into the animal, how is this distributed towards milk production and growth of the animal, as you can see on the figures to the right. Based on these AQUEL parameters, we have put a simple genetic model which is described in Poulier et al. From 2021, and this is done within different environments. And we have made an individual based herd model, and based on this we have made a lot of cows, a cow population, and we have put on top of that a family structure, again a simple family structure, and then we have estimated genetic parameters between both the the two acquisition and the two allocation parameters and the 5 traditional traits. Here it is milk yield lactation 1, dry matter intake lactation 1, lactation efficiency lactation 1, lactation efficiently life and longevity. And you see here that, and then in the different environments, we have estimated the genetic correlations. And you see here in this green ring to the northeast here, you see the correlation between lactation allocation and lactation efficiency is quite strong, while in the low nutritional environment, this correlation is much less strong and quite near zero. The general comment to the results is that we are able to estimate genetic parameters between internal aquel parameters, the resilience profiles, and the simulated traits of economic importance. The magnitude of these genetic correlations between allocation and acquisition parameters and the efficiency depends on environment. In the low nutritional environment, more unfavorable genetic correlations between basal acquisition and lactation efficiency is seen, and across environments we see opposite signs of the genetic correlations between lactation allocation and lifetime efficiency. And if you see on differences between the low versus the high nutritional environment, then we see much lower genetic correlations in the low environment between first lactation efficiency and lifetime efficiency than in the high nutritional environment. And then coming to understanding the genetics for more generations, then Aquel is not enough. Then, though the Aquel people in France need to collaborate with the Adam people in Aarhus University, where we are working with selection for more generations. And Adam, the software Adam, it simulates breeding schemes in livestock using stochastic simulation, as described by Peterson et al. In 2009. And what is possible then with Adam? It's possible to develop develop and compare some breeding schemes, breeding strategies, and we can simulate a large variety of breeding programs, and we can evaluate the consequences of using different technologies, such as dynamic selection mode or sex semen, and so it's a tool to support all the decision processes and to verify the use of some different statistical tools. And the output of this is genetic gain and inbreeding. And the workflow is that we do simulate a base population, and based on this we make a breeding population where we can specify the reproduction and age of animals at culling, etc. And then the animals in the breeding population is mated, and we have some offspring with records. We do, based on these records, we do genetic evaluation, and the highest ranking we do select, and the selection criteria can be phenotype, total merit index, breeding values, and we can even use optimal contribution selection, where we also consider the inbreeding created in the breeding schemes. So this is, in fact, the workflow of Adam. The first generation breeding schemes, genital breeding scheme simulations, are simulations where we have both some production traits, we do have some health, fertility, and dry matter traits, and we do have some true resilience trait, and we do have indicators for true resilience. And the most brown arrows here, these is a signal of that we know the correlation between the indicator and the production. We know the correlations between the indicators and the health traits, and we know the correlation between the production and the functional traits. But we do not know the correlation between the indicator traits and true resilience, between true resilience and the production and the functional traits. These are unknown. These we have to give our best to find, and they are given by red here. The remaining part of the this correlation covariance matrix is known from literature, but the ones in reds are some that we have given our best guess. So we think this is our best guess that they'll be in that level. If we take this 0.7, then we guess that the correlation between true resilience and LNVAR is 0.7. And we also think that the correlation between true resilience and milk production is minus 0.4. Then we define two different environments. One called West Atlantic. It's where it's again the picture as you saw before, a high management level, and there the breeding goal has a focus on high production. And then another one called Central Montaneous. This is a more low input system, and there the breeding goal focus more on functional traits. This we have done in such a way that the correlation between milk and the total merit index is 0.7 in the West Atlantic situation, while it's only 0.4 in the Central Mountainous situation. And as a starting point, there's no breeding goal weight for resilience. After this, we increase the rate of true resilience in the alternative scenarios to see what the effect will be of doing so. So here you see in the top two lines we have the two breeding schemes which are given for the West, or breeding goals for the West Atlantic situation and the Central Mountains situation. You see that we put the same weights for both beef production, dry matter intake, fertility, and other health. And here in this situation we have no weight on true resilience. But we see there's a difference on the weight given to milk production. It's 190 in the West Atlantic situation and 142 in the Central Mountainous situation. And these differences in weight given to the milk production are those which create the differences in the correlation between milk production and the total merit index, which in the upper line is 0.7, while it's 0.4 in the lower line there. And then in True 1, we put some extra weight on true resilience, and in True 2 we put double weight on true resilience compared to True 1, and all the weights on all the other traits are kept the same. And we have used a standard genomic breeding schemes which has been used in most of those simulations we have carried out at Aarhus University. We have a cow population with 20,000 breeding animals in the nucleus, 2,000 bulls which are genomic tested a year, and out of those we select 100 bulls. We have 2,000 heifers genomically tested a year, and out of those we select 200 for mode, with having 6 offspring each per donor. And the accuracies will vary depending on trait, but will be in the range of 0.6 to 0.7 for the breeding goal traits. This gives us then some output. Here you see in the basic scenario at the first error here, you see that we do have a progress of 0.26 for milk production. But on the other hand, we have a lot. The cows eat more, which of course is a cost, so it's negative. And the progress for dry matter intake, or the decline, is nearly minus 0.3 genetic standard deviation units. And for fertility, there's a little drop. And for true resilience, we see it's more or less equal. So no genetic gain. Then coming to a situation where we put high weight on resilience, then you see that the consequences of putting such a high weight on resilience here to the left is that we do have no progress for milk production. On the other hand, there's a lower decline in dry matter intake, and we do have high genetic gain for both fertility and other health, for body condition score, LNVAR, and a really, really high increase for true resilience. This is in the West Atlantic situation. Then, if we want to see what are the long-term biological effects of selection, then we need to combine these two tools, Aquel and Adam. So then we come to the second stage, Gentoo breeding scheme simulations. And here again, the traits, the correlations between true resilience, feed efficiency, and productions are known due to AQL. We also know the correlations between these production systems and true resilience. So this is via the AQL that we know these correlations. And then we do simulate, we want to perform breeding scheme simulation, where we simulate the breeding schemes with genetic parameters from high and low nutritional environments in the AQL, and with the breeding goals and the breeding schemes corresponding to the West Atlantic and the Central Mountainous breeding goals, which we discussed before. And then we follow the genetic level of the 4 allocation and acquisition traits. And then afterwards, we include the enhanced genetic level of the acquisition and allocation traits into AQL. And based on these enhanced levels, we simulate the biological effects of the new acquisition and allocation genetic level in AQL with respect to milk production, beef production, fertility, short and long-term efficiency, etc. So this we have not done, that we have not done at the time we had the EAAP, but I can tell you now, January 2022, that we are have done this now, and we are in process of publication of these very interesting results. But also at the EAAP time, the conclusion was that AQL gives us a good understanding of the biology of resilience. ADAM is good for estimating the long-term effects of selection on resilience, and AQL in combination with ADAM gives us an understanding of the long-term biological effects of selection for resilience. So this is very nice and it's very interesting, and I really like to acknowledge our collaborators, and I hope that we together can continue working on this interesting area in the years to come. Thank you very much, and happy 2022. Thank you.